right, thanks for being back with us here on Talkback. I'm KSYL. I'm Al Quartermont along with Sandra McQuain. And a chance now to talk with our U.S. Senator, John Kennedy, who's on the phone. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Morning, Al. Morning, Sandra.
Nice to have you with us. We appreciate it. So where I wanted to start was this article that you had written, and it was going to be run in several Gannett newspapers in the state of Louisiana, part of their USA Today network, and it was on transgenderism, which, you know, I've read your column, and I didn't really see anything that's that outrageous in it, but apparently they did, and they decided that your column did not meet their, I guess, editorial standards, so a lot of them pulled it from their websites. So, first of all, tell us why you wrote this column, and then secondly, your reaction to that being really, in essence, censored here in the state.
Well, you're right, Al. I wrote a column, and it said that, in my opinion, if you are a biological male, and irrelevant of whether you have gender dysphoria or not, even if you're a biological male that has gender dysphoria, because you're a biological male, beginning in the womb, you have certain physical characteristics that make the competition between a biological male and a biological woman unfair. And that if we allow biological males to participate in women's sports, it's going to skew the results, bastardize the sports, and hurt women. There are 2 points of view. They're mine, and there are people who think that in order to make biological males with gender dysphoria feel included, they ought to be allowed to play women's sports, that their inclusion is more important than the women's sports. So I wrote an article with my opinion, sent it to Gannett newspapers. They published it. And then all of a sudden, they took it down. And my communications team contacted them, and they said, well, they didn't tell me the truth. I won't go through with all their excuses. And finally, we got out of them that, well, we just don't like your opinion. And my response, they asked for a response, and I gave them one. I said, you know, this is why the media, the integrity of the media and people's opinions has declined in America, because the purpose of a newspaper is to publish both points of view and let readers decide, not to pick sides.
Right.
And that's what happened.
Now, they claim that because you use terms like biological male and biological female, that's against their standards, that's, quote, loaded language, and they cited the AP Style Guide, which alleges those terms are sometimes used by opponents of transgender rights to portray sex as more simplistic than scientists assert.
Well, the AP Style Guide was put together by the loon wing of the Democratic Party.
Yep.
And they are, many of them are transgender activists, which is their right to be. In America, you're entitled to your opinion.
Yeah.
But you can't hold their opinion up as the objective, truthful standard. And I don't know how to explain this issue, Al, without talking about biological males and biological females, because that's the issue. It is a fact, whether you have gender dysphoria or not.
Right.
That your advantage, physical advantage as a male, it's just the way God created us, starts in the womb. You have a bigger heart, you have more lung capacity, you have greater bone density. That's just a biological fact.
And we've seen this play out. I mean, everyone knows the Leah Thomas situation, and Riley Gaines has been very outspoken about this. Now you have the Biden administration pushing transgenderism into Title IX, which was set up in the beginning to benefit women in athletics and other areas. It is now going to allow something that's going to hurt these women and their competition. I mean, it's just the insanity of all of it. Where is it going to end? It seems like there is no limit to this, and if you speak out against it, then you're considered the one who's hateful.
Well, the only way this foolishness is going to end, the only place you're going to find sanity again is in a voting booth. Mm-hmm. You're right, President Biden. Look, here are the facts, at least in my opinion. President Biden is polling right up there with hemorrhoids. He's in trouble politically. his base is not even supporting him to the extent that he needs to win. So he's doing anything he can to appeal to the loon wing of the Democratic Party. And if he has to destroy Title IX of the Civil Rights Act, which protects women's sports, he's willing to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just desperate. And I think most of this is political. I'm not saying there aren't people that honestly disagree with me. And if they do honestly disagree with me, they have the right to their opinion and to have their opinion heard. But I have the right to have my opinion heard, too. And I think most Americans support me.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think especially in Louisiana, and for Gannett to do this, I mean, first of all, Gannett has destroyed most of the papers in Louisiana anyway. But for them to, comparing like to how they handled the Stacey Abrams situation with an editorial she wrote, where they allowed her to go in and edit it and didn't tell people. I mean, that's unethical. So, I mean, we see this all over the place. There's a double standard when it comes to espousing conservative virtues or values, and it just played out here once again. And I will note for people, if they want to see your full column, they can go to the National Review.
Here's the thing, though, Al. You make a really interesting point. You do see this. Sandra sees it. Most Americans see it. But the loon wing of the Democratic Party thinks we don't. They think they can fool us. They think we're stupid. Now, we may be poorer under President Biden, but we're not stupid. And people do see this. And then the media, many members of the media who do this sort of foolishness, they wonder why nobody reads their paper anymore.
Yeah.
Well, it's because people don't trust it.
Exactly.
And it's happening not just we see it happening in television as well. And it's not healthy for what we all consider to be objective journalism.
Right. And I teach journalism, and we use the AP style guide, and I have to sometimes point out things like this. It's heartbreaking for me that this has been the profession that I've loved, to see what it has become, because it has become more controlled by interest groups or by ideology rather than honest, fair, objective journalism. And again, we could go on forever talking about that. On that subject, or closely related, we were talking last hour quite extensively about what is happening in New York with this Donald Trump trial. What are your thoughts on this and the procedures that are taking place, where it just seems like they will stop at nothing to get him convicted?
Well, I go back to my previous point. You're right. This is all political. I don't think there is a fair-minded person in the Milky Way who believes that these charges would have been brought against anybody except Donald Trump. And I believe that the Biden administration, working with a lot of local Democratic officials, made a decision early on that they were going to prosecute Trump. I don't think he would have been prosecuted had he not decided to run for president again. I think this sort of politicizing of our criminal justice system, it has established a horrible precedent. DA Alvin Bragg may be the first to do something like this, but he's not going to be the last. There are thousands of prosecutors out there across America, Democrat and Republican, who are going to come under pressure to prosecute their political opponents. This is not the sort of thing that happens in America, or should happen in America.
Right.
This does happen in the world, but usually it's in a country whose Powerball jackpot is 287 chickens and a goat. It's not supposed to happen in America, but it has, and it's political. And once again, I think the only place you're going to find justice is in the voting booth, and I regret it.
Yeah, I hope you're right. I hope we do find it there. We have a call coming in for Senator Kennedy. Let's go ahead and take that. Thanks for waiting. You're on Talkback.
Thank you, Senator, for taking my call. I'll go as quickly as I can. On March 24th of this year, an American in Arkansas was attacked in his home and killed by ATF agents in the execution of a no-knock raid for a search warrant. I'm wondering what the Republicans, I haven't heard anything out of our side. What are y'all going to do about this horrible injustice to bring the officers who shot him dead to justice and the bureaucrat who gave the order that 10 carloads of ATF agents were necessary to execute a search warrant on an American that had not committed a crime? And I'll hang up and listen to you. Thank you so much for taking my call.
Well, I appreciate the question. You gave me a lot of information there at once. I'm just not familiar with the incident. I promise you I will look into it. If you want to contact my office, we'll tell you what we think. No-knock raids. A no-knock raid is basically when the police come to your door and they don't knock first and say, we're police. They just barge in. And it's usually used only in case of a potential suspect who's considered to be very dangerous. But the practice itself can be dangerous because if somebody just barges into your home without identifying yourself and you have a weapon, there's a good chance you're going to use it. But I'm not familiar with the incident, but I promise I'll look into it.
Yeah, we had talked about it on the show the other day, and I know Senators Cotton and Boozman are looking into it. This guy was the director of the airport in Little Rock,
yes.
And there were some questions about some weapons he had owned and had sold, but I mean, the degree to which they showed up and the way they went about it, caught him by surprise in his home. It's a very disturbing story. I definitely would encourage you to just look into it, and
I will.
Yeah, hopefully, even talk with Senator Cotton or Boozman, they could tell you more about that. So we got about 2 minutes left. Sandra, you want to?
Well, I know recently, Senator Kennedy, you have I don't know if it's a bill or a resolution encouraging the SBA to do more for service-disabled veterans.
Yeah, thanks, Sandra, for that question. We spend billions of dollars at the SBA, and some of it's well spent. Some of it's not. I don't think that they're helping disabled veterans enough. I think that disabled veterans should be at the top of the list, not the middle or the bottom. And I'm trying to encourage them to do it. Dealing with the administrative state, though, it's really a fourth branch of government. And Congress, through the years, it's happened over years and years and years, has given away a lot of its power to these bureaucracies, and really, they run the government. Congress and the president thinks that they are in charge, but it's really the bureaucracies that people know who've had to interface and interact with the bureaucracy. But I'm trying to bring them around to my way of thinking. Haven't succeeded yet, but I'm going to chase them like a dog to the tree line until they agree.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. Senator, I know we're out of time with you for today. I always enjoy catching up with you. Let's do this again soon.
Thanks, Sandra. Thanks, Al. I really appreciate y'all having me.
Yes, sir.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you, too. And that is Senator John Kennedy, our guest here on Talkback. We need to take a break.